You don't have to look very far today to find volatility. In fact, you can just focus on the 11 major SPY sectors, and you had plenty of volatility inside of just the SPY sectors. If I pull up our live scanner and I'm focused on just the ETFs here, you'll notice just how many ETFs set up today. We had XLY, we had XLU, we had XLP, we had XLK, you had XLE, and you had XLC if I continue to keep scrolling down. The thing that's interesting with all of these sectors that set up is they were a mixed basket in terms of long and short side setups. It wasn't just one side which dictated the direction, giving you this idea that it was a classic choppy market. So let's start first with XLY here at the top. If we were to look at XLY here, we had these setups inside of XLY. We had a long side setup along with short side setups. The long side setup took place in the second half of the day near 231.13. The short side setup was near 231.80. Let's come into our Thinkorswim charts and take a look at that. 231.80 for the short side setup was right here when price action breached the short side volatility box models off of the rally. We saw 1 and 2 different overbought confirmation signals. That's your sign that, hey, we're now looking for some sort of a reversal. And we saw the first sign of that momentum switching with the 3 EMA crossing below the 8. As soon as that happens, you'll notice the sell-off, and every single time we try to bounce, that is rejected. Each new bounce is rejected. Now, after the lunchtime hour ends, we head into the 10 to 11 a.m. where that selling finally accelerates, taking us all the way into the other side's volatility box models for a long side entry near that 231.13 mark. Now here, we'll see price continues to keep making lower lows. We see our first oversold confirmation, our second oversold confirmation, the third oversold confirmation, and finally that momentum switch. Notice early on for that short side entry, we saw the momentum switch fairly soon after we saw our overbought confirmations. Here it took a little bit longer, but as soon as that momentum switches, a little last bounce, and then we accelerate into the other side's models. Now next up on our list, we have XLU and XLP. XLU was a trade in the final hour of the market, and this is all a short side setup. I'll quickly show you this. After that, the setup which we could actually take advantage of was XLP. So I want to spend more time there where we had both longs and shorts. So let's start with XLU first. Inside of XLU, the one breach we had was in the final hour where price rallied all the way into our volatility box models. 83.89 is where we were looking for the short. So this is still what you might call an open trade that we're looking to finish tomorrow morning, or for the sell side activity to click in tomorrow morning. Contrast that with XLP. XLP, just like we saw inside of XLY, a little bit easier to trade. We had the long side entry early in the morning when price action sold off straight into our volatility box models. Here we're looking for a long, and that long paid off real nice all the way into the other side's volatility box models for a short side entry. Notice how that short led to a really nice trade, where again we rallied for a second short side setup. And this is where we got the short and the long setups inside of XLP. So multiple setups here and a little bit easier to trade compared to what we saw in XLU, which was just a breach in the final hour. Now, if we continue down the list so far, we've taken a look at XLY, we've taken a look at XLU, we've taken a look at XLP. We still have a few sectors left. We have XLK left, we have XLE left, and we have XLC left. Let's take a look at these final three sectors. So next up, we'll look at XLK. Now XLK, just like XLP, a lot of volatility. Early in the morning, we had the short side setup, took us all the way into the long side setup. A bounce at the long, and again, we saw the long trigger into the 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific hour, which took us into the rally, similar to XLY triggering the short side setup for tomorrow. Unlike XLY, we have not seen price show us any signs of stopping here, so a lot more strength inside of XLK. And it was the early morning setups, both the shorts and the longs, that led to much nicer opportunities compared to the opportunities in the second half of the day. After XLK, we have XLE. Inside of XLE, we had a short side setup that triggered, and this was at the tail end of the 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific hour, right before the lunchtime hour. Not a trade I'm too interested in. That then takes us into the lunchtime hour, triggering us into a long setup, which doesn't really lead to anything because as soon as that lunchtime hour ends, that sell side activity resumes, triggering us into the longs. So XLE had a significant amount of volatility today on the backs of the morning volatility where we fell straight through our models. And finally, XLC. XLC, very similar to XLK and the other choppier markets, except early in the morning, we had the short, then we had the long. After this long took us all the way into the other side's models, we then had another long trigger, this time in the 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific hour. This then takes us into the short, except this time the short finds buyers here that take us even above forming a new high, and then we finally sell off back into the long for that final rally into the close. So you'll notice we had a variety of setups here for you to pick and choose from. Some of them had really nice win rates in terms of just blind breaches. Others required you to be a little bit more tactical, as we saw, but still gave you plenty of volatility opportunities just inside of the major sectors. We looked at where we had all of the volatility today, and we saw inside of the sectors, XLY, XLP, XLU, XLK, XLE had a lot of volatility, especially early in the morning, and XLC. All gave us volatility setups breaching their hourly models. I hope you found today's video helpful. I have some updates coming out that make it even easier to find out things like which sector in these do you want to be trading if you had to pick just one. Stay tuned for those, but until then, I hope you found this video helpful in learning how to use the models and make sense of the volatility that we saw inside of the markets today. Take care, and I'll see you in our next update.